can we be absolutely certain of? We can be certain that there is experience. Nobody could doubt that. We may not know exactly what experience is, but we are absolutely certain that there is experience. Now, how can we be so sure that there is experience? Because experience is known. Whenever there is experience, it is known. Just take a moment to check that for yourself. Could you have a thought that was not known? Could you have a perception, such as the sight of this room or the sound of the traffic, that was not known? Just take a moment, allow your attention to go wherever it pleases. And see that whatever your attention finds is experience, and that experience is always known. We may not know who or what it is that knows experience, and we may not know exactly what experience is, but we know that there is experience, and experience is known. Ask yourself the question, do I ever know or come in contact with anything other than my experience? Again, just let your attention go wherever it pleases. And just to be absolutely sure about this, try now to come in contact with or to know something that is not experience. It's obviously not possible. So there is experience, and there is the knowing of it. See that whatever it is that knows experience remains consistently present throughout all experience. Experience itself is always changing. Thinking, imagining, feeling, sensing, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. It never stays the same. There's no such thing as a static experience. But the knowing with which all experience is known always remains the same. Whatever it is that is knowing the sound of these words, or the sight of this room, or your current thought or feeling, is the same knowing as whatever it was that was knowing your thoughts half an hour ago, or your perceptions 2 days ago, or your feelings 2 years ago. In other words, the knowing element of all experience remains the same throughout all experience. Just check that that is true for yourself. Whatever it was that knew your experience when you were a 5-year-old girl or boy is the same knowing that is now knowing your current experience. That knowing hasn't changed. It hasn't aged. It is in the same pristine condition that it was in 2 minutes ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, 20, 40, 60 years ago. The knowing element in all experience remains continuously present and unchanged throughout all experience. But experience itself is continuously changing. Experience always changes, the knowing of it never changes. So, we might ask, what is the relationship between experience and knowing? Take a thought to begin with. That thought is known. What is the relationship between the thought and the knowing of it? Go back and forth with your attention from the thought to the knowing of it. Can you find these two elements of experience? One thing called a thought, and another thing called the knowing of it. Well, let me ask the question a different way round. Is there any difference between a thought and the knowing of it? If I were to ask you now, give your attention to the current thought, And I would now to ask you, give your attention to the knowing of the current thought. It's the same thing. How can that be? How can that be? The thought is always changing. The knowing of it is never changing. And yet they are the same thing. Ask yourself the question, is there anything present in the thought other than the knowing of it? If we were to try to touch the stuff that thinking is made of, do we find anything other than the knowing of it? All there is to a thought is the knowing of it. And if all there is to a thought is the knowing of it, we can't really say it's the knowing of it. We never find the it. We never find the object separate from knowing. It's not the knowing of the thought. It's just knowing. The only substance present in the always changing thought is the never changing knowing. Just check that this is true for you. Go anywhere you like in your experience, your current experience, your remembered experience, your imagined experience. Is there anything there other than the knowing of it? And then see that you never find the it. You never find the thing, the object. All that is known is knowing. Being the substance or reality of all experience, this knowing is not limited by any particular experience, and is therefore unlimited or infinite, not finite. This means that the very experience that each of our minds is now having is made out of infinite knowing. Infinite knowing is colouring itself in the form of our apparently limited experience. Just like a screen colours itself in the form of a movie. The movie is always changing, the screen is never changing. but all there is to the changing movie is the unchanging screen. All there is to experience is knowing. Experience is always changing, but knowing is never changing. The movie seems to comprise a multiplicity and diversity of objects and selves. But when we go close up to the movie and touch the stuff that it is made of, it is one single, indivisible, infinite whole, the screen. Experience seems to be a multiplicity and diversity of separate objects and selves. But if we go close up to it and touch or know the stuff that it is made of, we find that it is one single, indivisible, infinite whole. Pure knowing, infinite consciousness, God's infinite being, the common name for which is I. All that is necessary is to explore one's experience, come to this understanding, and live a life that is consistent with it.